and welcome to our series from Five Leaves Bookshop on cultural diversity in children's literature. I'm Deirdre O'Byrne, and tonight we're concentrating on one picture book in particular, Sunflower Sisters. And we have with us the author, Monika Gangotra. Sorry, I've lost my notes. Sorry, Monika Singh Gangotra, and illustrator Michaela Dias-Hayes. It's very early to lose my place in my notes. We've got BSL interpreter tonight with us, Lauren Lister, and thank you very much to Arts Council England, who facilitated by funding. And Simon is ably assisting us on technology. So how the event will run is that I will chat to Michaela and Monika for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end from the audience. Feel free to join in the chat box in the meantime if you're attending, but do, if you have any questions directly for the author and the illustrator, please put them in the Q&A box, because we can't keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A. So thank you all for attending. So Monika, you're going to start off with a short reading from the book and tell us something about it.
Yeah, okay. So this is, sorry, just bear with me. This is our Sunflower Sisters. It focuses on the issue of colorism with really strong aspects of sisterhood and empowerment and how important that is. And I'm going to read my one of my favorite pages from the book, actually. My mother gave it to me when I was your age, Mum revealed as Amrita grabbed the box. Mum, why was Auntie surprised when I chose yellow? Well, some people think that wearing certain colours makes our skin look darker, Mum said. But shouldn't we wear colours that make us happy? Amrita asked. Our skin is beautiful, whatever colour we wear, right? That's right, Amrita, Mum said. When I wore this outfit, my mum said I reminded her of the sun, warm and kind, and yellow has been my favourite colour ever since. Do I look like the sun too? Asked Amrita. You look even more beautiful, just like the tall sunflowers, proud and radiant, Mum said, beaming with pride. Then I will always look up towards you because you are my sun, Amrita replied, holding Mum's hand tightly. Show the picture of that.
Wonderful. And you're both appropriately dressed. The sunflower and the yellow. She looks wonderful. So the book is published by Owlet Press. Monika, can you tell us how you came to work with the press and how your book fits in with their aims?
Yes, absolutely. So Owlet Press had a school program where they went in to a school that my daughter attends, and they talked about a wonderful book that we love in our home called Elephants in My Custard. And I had all these stories that I'd kind of been writing for a little while and talking to my daughter about. And I just, by chance, happened to email Owlet Press and sent them some of my transcripts. And we went from there. It was so important for me to be able to work with a publisher that had such a focus on diversity and inclusivity. It was the books that have come out by Owlet Press just exude warmth and love, and I desperately just wanted to be a part of that world, and I'm so grateful that I am, actually.
So, Michaela, have you worked with Owlet before, or?
Yes, I did one spread in a book called Don't Look in This Book, but that was it. And then I think Sam saw my post I put on Instagram. I don't know if you can see that. It says racism is also a pandemic. And he contacted me about Monika's book.
Oh, amazing. So we will ask more details about it. So, Monika, the book deals with colorism in various communities. Can you tell us more about why you picked that topic to focus on in this story? That's not mine.
Yep. So the issue...
Sorry. I believe it's my phone. Can I just come back one moment?
Yep, the issue of colorism has been present throughout my whole life. Ever since I was a child, there were so many references and comments about skin color growing up. And it was always so prevalent in South Asian pop culture. So the movies that we watched in Bollywood and all the music that we listened to, there was always reference to skin color. However, the word used to describe fair skin, which is gaudy, became, I realized it became synonymous with the word beauty. And I didn't quite understand why, but it was always there. It was a part of our life. It was how we spoke to each other. It was how we described people, how we described their beauty in particular. And there were also so many layers when it came to sort of caste and other social issues. It was talked about in a way that was suggested that it would impact our success in life, in finding a partner or finding a job, and all of those things. My skin color was very important in the life decisions that I made or the opportunities that I might receive. And I had a daughter, and I did not understand, that just blew my mind, that I had lived my entire life with this concept in the background and not really understanding why or where it came from or what it actually meant. It was so ingrained in me, in my life, in my family, and everyone that I came in contact with. I implore any South Asian person to come to me and say, I have never, ever heard about colorism in my life. It is just everywhere. So it was really important to me. So when my daughter was born, it was kind of, okay, what gender is she? That was the first question. Who does she look like? I'd like to say she looks like me, but she looks like my husband. And then there was a comment made on the color of her skin. And I noticed from then that when a child was born, it was, if she was fair-skinned, it was like the utmost of compliments to say, oh, I've had a fair-skinned child. But then when there was a child that was born with, say, a darker skin tone, it was always met with a tone of disappointment. I think people still try to be like, polite, but there was that level of disappointment. And to think that as a child takes its first breath, that they are already disappointing people around them, I think is just devastating. And that, I'm going to get a tissue. And I've just wanted to be able to educate my daughter about that in a softer way, and use kindness as a way to be able to tackle this situation. The book is definitely not aimed at demonizing people that engage in these behaviors or speak in this way. It is a way to lovingly show them that we can change the way we speak and the impact it has and how harmful it can be. So, yeah. Sorry.
And it deals with humor, actually, because the auntie who comes out with that kind of a message, I mean, it is dealt with humor, which I think makes it easier.
Yes, absolutely.
So many, yeah. Michaela, can you tell us about your interest in the topic of colorism?
I wasn't expecting that. Sorry, my mind's gone absolutely blank. That wasn't my next question. So I don't know. I feel as a person of colour, I've come across many different things throughout my career and throughout my life. And when Monika asked me to illustrate this book, I saw lots of things that I've dealt with in the past, and things that things that I've come across upon. And I felt when illustrating this book, obviously I did want to make it funny as well, as you said, with the aunties and stuff. I wanted to make it interesting and warm, for when people open it, they have a happy face and, be completely happy about reading the book and the things about it. Sorry, you threw me there. That wasn't what I was expecting. I was just off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm very nervous.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did talk about doing it earlier on in the conversation, but I thought it fitted in very well there. Given the various cultures it represents, Michaela, how did you go about representing the variety of backgrounds of people?
That's what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is make sure that each illustration showed. So when I drew a black woman, I wanted it to be a black woman. I wanted her to be curvy. I wanted her to have curly hair. I didn't want the traditional clouds that everybody draws. I wanted it to look like Afro hair. When I drew the Asian, the little girl, I wanted her to have beautiful plaits. You know, I just wanted the characters to look Asian, Black, African. With features as well. I've touched upon some of the characters in the book. I've touched upon facial features, so you can definitely see that it is a black character. It is an Asian character, you know, with the lips and the nose and the features. I sometimes think when you look into children's books and things like that, you see it's just the round eyes, dot in the middle, 3 eyelashes, and the skin's coloured dark. Whereas I wanted you to see it, the nose shape. I wanted you to see the lips. I wanted to see the big bum, you know. I wanted you to know, that's a black lady. That's an Asian lady. And also with the dress as well, I wanted it to be cool and funky. You know, I want a little girl to open the book and think, that looks like my mum, you know, that looks like my auntie. And, oh, mum, that looks like our aunties, you know, and that looks like grandma. So I just tried to capture that. And also with me coming from, my son's father's Asian as well. So I have a huge Asian family as well as a black family and a white family. So I have all different religions and races around me. So it was quite nice to choose certain members of the family to recreate the characters nicely, but fun. So the grandma's based on actually my son's grandma. So things like that. So that's how I wanted to draw people's attention to the book.
Right. And your dedication suggests, Monika Singh Gangotra, that there's a personal connection here too. Can you tell us who it's dedicated to?
It is dedicated to my daughter. She, the book focuses on, there's a heavy weight, I guess, but maybe not weight, it's not the right word. There's a strong relationship that's shown between a mother and daughter, and I feel that as grown-ups we have a great responsibility to be able to grow and learn and be fluid and change with the times, and to relay that to our children, that as things come in and we realize more about the world that we live in, that it's so important to be able to then pass that on. I think the issue that's been happening for so long in our generations is that this issue of colorism has just been so static. It hasn't really moved, that there was a mindset that was created, and then that just carried on, and it seemed very rare that people would question it. It just was that way. So I think it's very important to understand as grown-ups our responsibility to then change and grow, and then pass that on to our children, who then will hopefully, you know, pass those on, you know, generationally. I think our children are the most important asset that we have to create change, and that will come from us. So my daughter was very important in this whole story for me, and even just in terms of support and encouragement and actually getting my words out there.
I wasn't even aware of this. I mean, somebody told me about colorism and then said it was also called shadism sometimes. And then I was reading Andrea Levy's work, and she has a really interesting essay, which is free if anyone wants to look it up. It's on the British Library website. Simon will put it in the chat box, the link to it. But she talks about growing up with that. And it struck me that I haven't come across it in children's books. I mean, it's not even in many adult books, but I was wondering if you had come across it in children's books, or is it just I've missed out?
When we were doing the research about other children's books that might have written about it, I couldn't come across anything. But that's only of the literature that I could access. So I'm not sure if there is stuff out there, but there definitely wasn't anything that we could find that dealt with colorism in such a more of a black and white way. It is a children's book at the end of the day, but it's very clear about what it is that we are talking about, which wasn't always the case. The original story was actually a story about birds and the color blue. And it was actually my wonderful publisher who told me to write the real story from my lived experience. And so I rewrote the story.
So this is Sam at Owlet Press?
Yeah, Sam at Owlet Press.
Right. So, and it was Sam that got you two together, Michaela, because of your picture. Wonderful.
Yes, because of my picture. And then also I saw Monika's Instagram page and all her amazing outfits and fabrics that she wears. And I just thought, I need to incorporate that into the book. I need to illustrate, you know, these beautiful fabrics that she wears. Amazing.
That's fantastic. Monika, you've put in a piece at the back that explains what colorism is and some suggestions of what can be done about it. Can you tell us about putting that in, like separate from the story, there's an extra piece?
Sure. The last page is aimed at explaining colorism to all young people, not just children of color or people of color. It's for everyone. Because like you said, there's not much literature out there. There's not much about what it is. So we just wanted to be able to provide a little bit of factual information about what it means. And also, so children, when they're seeing these behaviors and comments being made from people around them, that they're able to recognize, oh, that's colorism, or you've made a comment that relates to colorism, so that they are recognizing. And with that recognition, they are then able to kind of understand that what it means, one, why it's harmful, and to also how they can make change. It's really important for them to recognize that colorism is happening all around them, and to be able to be equipped to tackle it, and open conversations with parents and peers to say, hang on, I read this in this book, and isn't that colorism what you're saying? That's not being very kind, or, you know, that for me was really, really important. I think promoting change, this book is, so I'm hoping is going to be a wonderful platform for people to be able to do that, to use it as a tool in that way, to make positive change in a loving and kind way. It's not in any way to be aggressive, but rather to lovingly show people that this is how you can change. You can actually use your big voice, even though you're a little person, and put your hand up and say, I don't think that's being very kind. And, you know, all the colors of the skin color rainbow are beautiful. And I think that's empowering children is really, really important. And the best way to do that is to give them information.
Yeah. And the facility you get with a picture book, that quite often is parents or older people reading with the child, even if the child is able to read for themselves, that quite often that's a bedtime story, or, you know, something they do together. And I thought the relationships in the picture book, like particularly between the mother, daughter, and which you've already talked about, and the grandmother, I thought that was beautifully done. Can you tell us about the importance of celebrating that kind of intergenerational love?
I have always lived in an extended family. So I've always lived with grandparents. My children now live with their grandparents, and I've always lived in a lovely big family. And those relationships are so influential and so important in what you believe to be true about the world. They really do make an impact. And I wanted to show in the book that it's important to be able to grow and learn, no matter what age in the generational line that you are, that it's important to be open. And you can see that the grandmother kind of acknowledges her part that she's playing in it, in the issue of colorism with her granddaughter, because she adores her granddaughter. And that love is the most important thing in that whole scene, that there's an aha moment to go, oh, actually, my granddaughter is a marvel, and she's wonderful, and I adore her, and her skin color has absolutely nothing to do with it. So things, the concept of sisterhood and strong bonds is really, really important, and I wanted to show that in the book. It definitely shapes the way that we see the world. And these journeys, I think, on self-discovery and learning and growing can be lonely and very difficult if you're pushing against something that's so ingrained in who you are. And so having a sisterhood that will be open to understanding or learning with you, I believe, is really, really important, and it just helps that journey in a more positive way. So yeah.
Yeah. I did like the fact that, I mean, Sam at Owlet Press did send me the book, but Auntie isn't named in it, is she? So It could be any auntie, you know, and
anyone.
I mean, yeah, or any adult that you call auntie, as we did, out of respect, you know, that it's just, it makes it more open, I think, that you're not tagging a name to it.
Yeah, we definitely were very mindful that we didn't want to demonize anyone.
Yeah.
And everyone does have that auntie.
Yeah. Michaela, it struck me looking at your pictures, how many of them are showing, I mean, the text is, of course, but people touching one another and holding one another. And reading a book like this and looking at the pictures when we've been forbidden to touch and hold for so long, did you enjoy working on it during all our lockdowns?
Yeah, I can honestly say it probably got me through the lockdowns. And just with my mental health and everything, it was just something to just focus on, and just like, it was just, I don't know, I just went into my own little world of holding hands and hugging, and you know, that's, I think, yeah, that totally got me through lockdown. And I just wanted to show just so much love within the book, you know, when the grandma's got her arm around the little girl, you know, I want, you know, you just imagine it, can't you? You know, I did lots of poses looking in the mirror, hugging myself and grabbing my son and hugging him. But yeah, I just wanted to I don't know, yeah, I suppose it brought me great joy doing it, to be honest. And yeah, I just went into my own little illustration world and yeah, created. I think, yeah.
So how long did the book take in production? I mean, I know people will be listening thinking a picture book, like how long does that take to put together? How long have you two been working together on this?
I was in talks with Sam from the first lockdown last year. So it's taken about a year and a bit to get to this point.
Right. With lots of exchanges, I'd imagine. It must be easier now, though. At least you can share sketches and ideas online. Well, I mean, we've had to share everything online recently. So
everything online, everything online, all the sketches.
Yeah. This weddings, I was very interested in the importance of weddings as a theme, because I thought for both of you, this must have been quite fun. But Monika, can you tell us why the wedding is central in there?
Weddings are a really big part, I believe, of South Asian culture. They've been a really big part of my life, and it truly is a celebration of couples and families and togetherness. And I wanted to use that as a context to talk about colorism, because I feel that the issues of colorism are actually quite prominent during that time when we're meant to look our best and present ourselves a certain way and all that kind of stuff. Colorism is just floating around all the time. But I also wanted the book to be able to use the context of a wedding as a celebration and joy and color and happiness, and that, again, the color of our skin has nothing to do with any of that, that it truly is about family and love. And I felt that was the best platform to be able to showcase both sides.
Yeah. And Michaela, illustrating weddings?
Oh, it was amazing. It was a total joy, honestly. Just all I could think about was weddings that I've been to. So I asked family and friends to send me photographs of weddings so I could get the feel of, you know, the happiness, the throwing the money in the air, the saying goodbye to your father and your mother on the wedding day. So I just got lots and lots of family photos and asked for lots of images of people hugging and crowd scenes and stuff. And that's where I got the influence for those from. It was amazing. It was just a joy, a total joy to illustrate. And all the colour as well. The colour in the fabrics. Amazing.
So interesting to hear that for both of you, the inspiration is actually coming from your own heritage, your culture, and indeed family, friends, that it's all gone in there. Yeah, it does show, because it's a terrific book. It's got such vibrancy. I think it really sings on the page. the fabrics, you talked about, Michaela, in being interested in Monika's use of fabrics. You tell us about putting that into the illustrations.
Well, after looking at Monika's Instagram page, Monika's also a fan of pattern like me. I've worked in fashion for over 15 years, designing prints and pattern. And then when I saw Monika's clothes as well, it just struck me that I need to use this pattern in the book. So yeah, I took photos of all Monika's Instagram pages and then recolored patterns, rejigged patterns, and just got them to sit in the story, just to make it extra special for when Monika opened it as well, to say, that's my garment or that's my favorite dress. But also it just worked so well, it just fitted so well, and it was just such a joy to use all the different patterns and the colors, just using bright, vibrant colors. So yeah, just to make everybody happy when you open the book.
Yeah,
joyful.
And as author, Monika, how much say do you have in the illustrations? I mean, did you have an idea beforehand that your fabrics were going to be worked in?
Not directly. It was, but that was done purposefully as a surprise, because I truly believe there's just been so much synergy between Michaela and I. The things that she's putting in there and picked up, I feel like she painted my heart on the pages. It's just, when I opened it, it's just unbelievable how much it's like she was able to see sort of beyond just the words. It just, as Michaela said, I've worked sort of in fashion a little bit as well. And so seeing my prints and all that stuff there, it just makes it so much more special. I cannot thank her enough for what she did.
Thank you.
But we didn't get to have a lot of contact. I was sort of given samples and there was back and forthing between Sam and Michaela and I. But the process was wonderful and lovely, and it was just so nice to be a part of in that way. I feel like perhaps if it was any other way, I didn't want to inadvertently influence any part of it, Michaela's vision or Sam's vision for that matter. So it was really nice. I really enjoyed my part to play in that, which was very little, to be fair.
To be honest, Sam's vision from the beginning, I mean, it was my first ever picture book, and without Sam, I honestly don't know how I would have done it. He's just fantastic, you know, just guiding me through suggestions, suggesting things. You know, it was actually his idea. Why don't we use Monika's prints? You know, let's have that on the last page, all of Monika's prints, you know. It's just absolutely fantastic. The help he gave me, just, yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So the book, I believe, is due out on July the 6th. And you can buy it from all good bookshops, including, of course, Five Leaves Bookshop. But you can get your pre-orders in now. Monika Singh Gangotra, what next? Are you planning your next book?
I am planning my next book. I'd love to carry on. Sunflower Sisters has just changed my life, and I'd like for that to continue to be a part of my journey. It has been such a wonderful process. I am absolutely hooked. I've always been so interested in children's books. I find them fascinating. And my daughter and I, we've got quite a wonderful collection. And now to be a part of that collection is like, it's just a dream come true.
Yeah. And that synergy you're talking about, I've been struck so many times when I've read about picture books and authors say something like you said. It was like they could see inside my head, or the expressing ideas. Do you think, you said, Michaela, this is your first picture book?
Yes, it is. Yes.
It won't be your last, or do you think you'd work on another one?
I'm already working on 2 more that I've written.
2 more?
Yes.
Oh, tell us more.
Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to or not.
Okay.
It's still in process, yeah. I'm working on 2 children's picture books, and all the characters are mixed race, so I'm Black, so yeah, it's just something to look out for. But there's 2 coming definitely, but I'll keep my lips sealed.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't ask her if I was allowed to. And then also I'm going to work on Monika's second book as well, if she wants me still.
Absolutely.
That's terrific. It was almost the question I was afraid to ask. But I mean, as you know, there's so many successful collaborations. When you find the right illustrator, it is amazing to see what people do together. And I think inspiring one another, actually. So this topic, it needs to be talked about more. What do you think? Like bookshops, booksellers, schools could do, Monika, prize givers even?
I think the hope is that books like Sunflower Sisters will go into schools as part of the curriculum. I think it's really important to have those kinds of diverse books and bring up these topics again for young people and adults alike to be able to recognize these issues and concerns, because we live in a multicultural society, and I think it's really important to acknowledge the plight of those around you and how we can be allies, how we can support one another. I think we all kind of have our own individual journeys in life, but there are common threads, I think, that bind and bond us, and they, I feel, create empathy. And with that, I'm hoping that there's kindness and acceptance, and that only comes with learning and acknowledgement in that way. And if schools were able to open their doors and have books like Sunflower Sisters, I think it would just change so much. It would be wonderful. And again, like I said, I think children are the best. Educating our children and teaching them is such a great way to kind of get the conversations going, because children will go home and speak to their parents. Oh, I read this book at school today, and you know, this is what I learnt. And you know, it's the hope that then parents will go, okay, let's learn about it more. What does that mean? What did you learn? What can we do? So yeah, I think that's a really, really good entry point in getting these conversations out there. And they're not the easiest, but the children's picture books like Sunflower Sisters are supposed to create a soft entry point where you can go in and have a reference in a warm, loving way. It's I think when things are confrontational, they can be quite difficult, but we do hope that Sunflower Sisters is not that at all.
Yeah. So, Michaela, what would you like to see as a way forward from booksellers, prize givers?
Booksellers, prize givers, as in the illustrations. I'd like to see more Black characters in books, Black characters that are actually, they do actually look like Black children and mixed race children, Asian children. It isn't just the character drawn, as I said before, with the clouds, for the hair, you know, that's not what Afro hair looks like. That's not what Asian hair looks like. I'd like to, you know, have more main characters, main Black characters, because there isn't any. You know, when I was growing up, there wasn't one book, not one that I can think of that had that Black character in, or that main role model character. There wasn't. So just for more of that, you know, boys and girls, you know, this is like, I'd probably say this book's more for little girls. So, you know, to have more boy characters, you know, that my son can aspire to and look up to, you know, have that as his favorite book on his bookshelf. Because at the moment he's got many books, but there isn't a book that I would say has a mixed race child in that he looks up to, you know, as a character, as a main character. So in the future, I just want to see more Black characters that actually look Black features, Afro hair and body shape and form.
Yeah.
That's my wish.
Yeah. I've read people saying that before. It's not just a matter of colouring in.
No.
It's not a matter, it's like the best friend or the sidekick.
Yeah.
That they really need to be the lead character, and the story needs to be about them having adventures. And yeah,
on the front cover,
absolutely.
Yeah
Absolutely. I think Sam and I have spoken a lot about on this journey about representation. I felt that when I had my children, that I was buying any kind of books that I felt had some kind of South Asian influence, because I wanted to support South Asian artists, but I also wanted my children to be able to experience literature and art and things from South Asian creatives. And it was that realization of how important representation is, and not just that, how important the right representation is, you know. So in the beginning, it was just whoever was representing us was there, and you know, I'd pull them into this world, into our world, into my home, but it wasn't always the right representation. And I think that is something that I have carried with me, especially in this journey, that I want to be the right representation for our kids and my peers, other mums and other dads or other grown-ups that are raising children in a world like us, like where we live in England. And, you know, these aren't folk tales from India or stories that have come generationally down. These are our lived experiences, and it was really, really hard to find books that were doing that had people of color living here, you know. So that was really, really important to us.
Yeah, I've read Mira Sial's teenage book, Anita and Me, and that is has this little girl at school, and all she ever hears for people of India is just negative stuff. And, you know, Lenny Henry has talked about the same thing, that when you hear at school, all you hear is negative stories, what that does to your sense of self, if all you're hearing is, or even if you hear anything at all. So let's move on to the audience Q&A. I know they've got questions for us, and see what, and maybe at the end, Monika, if you could show us another small reading, if you pick out a page, it'd be great to finish up the evening. But thank you both very much. Because we're not finished yet. Let's see what the audience have to say out there. What do you feel you have learned about yourself during the process after creating such a powerful story? Monika, do you want to tell us?
A lot. I was pregnant when I was writing this story, and in talks with Owlet Press in terms of publishing it, and it was just so wonderful to be in that space. And I learned so much about myself and my role as a mum during that time, who I am, who I want to be, and also how I want the world to look. What is it that I'm aiming for, and what is this book going to do for young children? And that journey and Sam's guidance has just been, I cannot even tell you how immeasurable that's been. It has been profound and therapeutic. I think I didn't realize until I was going on this journey the weight of all this that I was carrying for so many years, how it influenced so much of the decisions that I made in my life, even little things like being pulled out of swimming lessons. I'm not saying I was going to be like an Olympic medalist or anything, but I loved swimming, and I was pulled out of swimming lessons because I was getting a tan and my skin color was changing, and that wasn't okay. So things like that I carry, and that I even now lathering up, and sun safety and all that kind of stuff wasn't about sun safety. It was about not getting a tan. And making those decisions, I started to realize how much of colorism actually affected a lot of those things, and how I saw beauty in the world. That became incongruent. I was taught to believe that this was beautiful, but when I started working in the industry, I started to feel something else. So that journey has just, like I said, been therapeutic and cathartic, and Owlet Press has just given me that avenue to be able to grow from that so much.
That's really interesting, because so many children's authors say things like, I wrote this book, or I produced this book for the child that I was. But they do also talk about producing it for, their own children. But I'm struck by so often they say, when I was young, there just wasn't a book like this, if only. And it's a kind of a healing process, I think, looking back to to get all psychological about it, your inner child, but it is writing for your inner child as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Michaela, what do you think you learned in this process about yourself?
Gosh, I learned how I want people to see the characters, I suppose. When I started off at the beginning, my sketches were, really simple. They weren't painted, the hair didn't look like that, the features didn't look like that. And then throughout the book, me and Sam worked together in making and developing the characters so they did look black. There was a book that really, really influenced me. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely adore this book. And when I had this book and looked at it, I just thought, yes, these characters look black. You can definitely tell these characters look Asian, and that's what influenced me. So I think from the beginning, what I initially thought the book would look like to what it looks like at the end, it was a massive process and a learning curve for me, how to paint, how to give the body shape, and how to give the hair and the clothes So yeah, it was just a massive, and yeah, I've learned so much along the way. I just feel really proud of it, really, really proud.
If anyone's wondering about that book, it's Jessica Love's Julian is a Mermaid, and it is a lovely, lovely book. And I really liked that. It actually has the same kind of the child and grandparent relationship that I notice in lots of younger children's books. Mimi says, so much warmth and integrity on display here. I'm so excited to share this story. So, out there, yeah, you really need to read this story. It's a great book. It really is so interesting. Thank you very much to both of you, and of course to Lauren Lister for signing, and to Arts Council England for supporting this event, Simon for the technology, and Pippa for organising this. So Monika, what are you going to leave us with tonight?
I'm going to read this page. I'm not going to give it all away, but so I'll read one part of it. Outside, their mums smiled at each other knowingly as Kiki and Amrita made one another a promise. From that moment on, the girls would make sure they felt like sunflowers every day.
Look at those beautiful drawings, and such vibrant colours. They're so gorgeous. Yeah, well done, both of you.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh, we have one more question. Let's have the last question. Lily says she's a first-year university student doing English and theatre and wants to work in the world of storytelling. What advice would you have? So she's very inspired by you both. Would you have advice for somebody who wants to go into storytelling, Monika?
I think it's really important to know who it is that you want to work with. I was very lucky and very grateful to be able to have some editors on board that were both women of colour. One was a racism activist, and the lead editor was a Black woman, and to be able to work in an all-female team and have women of colour was really, really important, and that Owlet Press provided that avenue for me to do so. And I think that just makes the journey and the process so much more wonderful and amazing and authentic. So when you're going in and you're submitting transcripts or manuscripts, be clear about who it is that you want to work with, who do you want on your team, and are they going to give you that voice? I was very, very grateful that things weren't in that way turned around in my story to make it more palatable or anything for anyone. It was very important that the story was authentic and true, and so that is definitely some advice that I would give, is that if you believe in a story, make sure that you have the right people putting it out there for you. It's so important, especially if you're looking specifically at representation, which you've written in your comment.
Michaela, do you have advice for somebody who wants to get involved as an illustrator and storyteller? Children's books.
I think just draw daily, draw all the time, you know, pull faces in the mirror, draw the faces that you pull. I think you can't get enough practice, you know, look at photographs, try to recreate photographs, look at everybody else's illustrations, try different styles, you know, step out of your comfort zone, look at something, don't be scared of it, just try and tackle it in a different way, you know, use lots and lots of different mediums, you know, try watercolor, try pen, try pencil, get your favorite book and try and illustrate a page from your favorite book in your style, and just post on Instagram, because that's where you'll get work.
Oh, that's amazing advice. This definitely is the last question. What would you say to somebody who thinks this is a book just for somebody who has experienced colorism?
I would definitely disagree, obviously. I think, yes, it has people of colour in the book. However, the issue of colorism affects all of us because it is everywhere. It is so heavy in the beauty industry. It is really important, I believe, as well. And that's why the last page was there. So if you haven't come across colorism, it is the information is there for you to understand what that is about. But also, colorism isn't just the only thing that's in the story. It's really about sisterhood and empowerment, which I think is relevant to all of us, a sisterhood, a brotherhood, a community, you know, and accepting and acknowledging one another's differences. Like I said, despite us being all so different, there are links that connect us, and to create empathy and kindness. And it is really important. And there's a section in the book that is one of my favorites that says that be someone's sunflower, you know, so be that person for someone else, because that kind of kindness and love is a great way to change the world, and accepting one another is so important. So I think this book should be read by everyone.
I think so too. It's a very beautiful book, and thank you both very much. And here I'm not going to go the rounds of saying thanks to everybody again, but thank you very much for supporting this event. And goodbye from me. Good night, and all the best to you all in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.